There is a moment in this story where the entire future of the human race depends on one man's ability to say yes to something most men would not need to be asked twice about. He says no. We will get there. But first, let us talk about how the world ended. We open on a rooftop where a young man named Reito Mizuhara is confessing his feelings to a girl. We are calling him One Thrust Man because eventually the entire planet will beg him to do exactly what that name implies. But right now, he is just a lovesick medical student with a face that screams, "Please like me." He pours his heart out to Elisa Tachibana, his childhood friend. We are calling her Ghost Girl because she is about to vanish from this story and haunt every single decision he makes for the rest of it. One Thrust Man asks Ghost Girl to return his feelings. She dodges the question by telling him she has always known he is in love with her. Real helpful, that. One Thrust Man smiles and reveals the real reason he is confessing now. He is not going to be around much longer. Ghost Girl asks what he means, and One Thrust Man drops the news. He has a terminal illness called cellular sclerosis. Ghost Girl, being a researcher, immediately looks it up and discovers that a cure will exist in 5 years. One Thrust Man already knows this. The catch is that he has to be put into cryogenic sleep for those 5 years, basically frozen like a leftover. He changes the subject and asks Ghost Girl if she plans to date the senior who confessed to her earlier. Instead of answering, she asks One Thrust Man what she should do. He tells her he cannot ask her to wait 5 years for him. Ghost Girl says nothing. She just walks away quietly. And that silence is louder than anything she could have said. Later, in the car, his younger sister Mahiru asks One Thrust Man if Ghost Girl returned his feelings. We are calling Mahiru Little Sister because she is his younger sister and there is no cleverer way to say it. When One Thrust Man explains what happened, his older brother Ryu, who we are calling Big Bro, tells little sister that her prayers have been answered and she now has her brother all to herself. While his siblings go back and forth, One Thrust Man stares out the window and notices that the world has gone full automation. Machines run everything. It looks like a tech billionaire's fantasy come to life. They arrive at the hospital where Dr. Takagi, who we are calling Doc Popsicle because he is about to put a man on ice and then disappear from the story forever, reassures One Thrust Man that his body will be taken care of during the sleep. Doc Popsicle also mentions that by the time he wakes up, he will be cured and can resume studying medicine. When the time comes to say goodbye, little sister bursts into tears. Big Bro stays composed and tells One Thrust Man to focus on recovery. Then Ghost Girl shows up. The two have a quiet, heartfelt conversation. She tells him to sleep well. Without thinking, One Thrust Man hands her his pendant and tells her to return it when he wakes up. Ghost Girl tears up at the gesture. The man gave her a pendant with the confidence of someone handing over a priceless artifact, and somehow it works. One Thrust Man is placed into his capsule. He looks at his loved ones one final time and thinks about how when he wakes up, they will all be adults. Just before his consciousness fades, he hears Ghost Girl whisper that she has always loved him. One Thrust Man smiles. He is going to sleep for 5 years, believing everything will be fine when he opens his eyes. Remember this moment. It is the last time anything goes according to plan. Fast forward to the year 2045. One Thrust Man wakes up and is immediately greeted by a woman with a physique that defies several laws of physics. She tells him it is time for his bath and medical check. Moments later, he sits in a room with a nurse who informs him his body is fully cured. He is healthy. Feeling good about life, One Thrust Man asks about Doc Popsicle so he can thank him. The nurse hesitates, then reveals that Takagi is no longer with them. One Thrust Man asks what she means. The nurse says nothing. That silence again. Shrugging off the strange interaction, One Thrust Man gets dressed and says he wants to see his family. The woman from before returns and tells him to come along. She will explain everything. In the car, one thrust man becomes uneasy. He is not allowed to see the outside world. The woman introduces herself as Mira Suwu, his dedicated attendant. We are calling her the clone, and the reason for that nickname will make painful sense later. One thrust man asks why he needs an attendant. The clone explains that she will be managing his needs and handling all contact with the outside world. He pushes back. He is cured. Why does he need a babysitter? So the clone starts talking. 4 years ago, a virus known as the MK virus took over the world. Anyone infected died within 3 days. It spread through the air. One thrust man asks if there is a cure. The clone reveals that the world's most advanced AI is still working on it. No luck yet. She pulls down the car shades and lets him see outside. The world's population has collapsed over 4 years. One thrust man cannot process what he is seeing. He bolts from the car and runs through the streets. Rusted buildings, crumbling infrastructure. He wonders what happened to his family. What happened to Ghost Girl? When he approaches a woman for help, she screams and runs away. Suddenly, he finds himself surrounded by women who stare at him like he is an alien. Terrified by the attention, he sprints until he finds the clone again. He asks her the question that has been building since he opened his eyes. Why has he not seen a single man? The clone drops the bomb. MK stands for male killer. The virus only kills men. The world he is in now is populated almost entirely by women, aside from a handful of men still in cold sleep. Shaken, one thrust man asks why he survived. The clone explains it is connected to his disease and its treatment. She adds that there are only 5 men in the world, including him, who are capable of activity. Right on cue, a woman charges at him, desperate to touch a man. Before she can reach him, the clone's security team takes her down with a taser. One thrust man watches this unfold and realizes he is now living the life women have lived for centuries, being wanted for what he is, not who he is, and he hates it. With the literal future of humanity depending on him, the clone kneels and begs one thrust man to do his duty and repopulate the world. He stares at her. This is the moment I mentioned at the start. And this man, bless his stubborn heart, does not say yes. Later, one thrust man watches a documentary to catch up on the state of the world. Most countries collapsed into chaos. A few survived thanks to strong female leadership. The world is now governed by a group called the United Women. When they discovered a man in cold sleep who was immune to the MK virus, they gave him the title Number 1 and saw a glimmer of hope. Further research revealed that all men who had been in cold sleep due to cellular sclerosis were immune. These men were sacred. The documentary ends, and the clone warns him that very few people know he exists, so he must be careful. One thrust man slumps in defeat. The clone, with the deadpan delivery of someone who has given this speech before, tells him the only companionship women have these days is their shower heads, so he needs to man up and accept his responsibilities. One thrust man, who has the romantic experience of a brick wall, becomes flustered and asks where the hidden cameras are. He is convinced this is a prank. The clone tells him it is not. He asks why they have not tried artificial insemination. She explains they did. Female babies survived. Male babies did not. He asks why they cannot just use the old-fashioned collection method. She says they tried that with Number 1. It always failed. However, a woman who mated with Number 1 naturally is now pregnant, making the unborn child humanity's single beacon of hope. The idea of being worked like a machine terrifies one thrust man, so he tells the clone he cannot give her an answer yet. Little sister arrives and hugs her brother. They visit Big Bro, who is still in cold sleep. When one thrust man asks about Ghost Girl, little sister reveals she went missing 3 years ago. That night, as one thrust man lies awake processing everything, the clone enters his room. But instead of comfort, she removes her clothes and offers herself to him. Before he can make a terrible decision, he remembers Ghost Girl. He pushes the clone away. She dresses without a word and leaves. Outside, she is greeted by a rude girl who suggests the clone can always use her man instead. The clone declines. The girl leaves. The next day, the clone takes one thrust man to a room filled with women who are all candidates for mating. Seeing that many people at once, one thrust man panics and tells the clone he has morals. She fake sympathizes just enough to keep him engaged and warns him that the men still in cold sleep may die within a year due to dwindling resources. Now, understanding the stakes, one thrust man tells the clone he needs 1 month. He will find one person and have a child with her. The clone agrees, but insists that in the meantime he must spend a night with a girl of her choosing. Meanwhile, in a hotel suite, we meet Kyoji Hino. We are calling him the Stud because this man has treated the apocalypse like a personal holiday. The Stud is receiving a luxury massage and having the time of his life. His attendant Naneko, who we are calling the Handler because she manages his schedule like a booking agent, asks if he is enjoying himself. The Stud says he is in heaven. The Handler shows him mating profiles of multiple women. He is uninterested in all of them until she mentions an actress named Rina, who we are calling the Actress. Moments later, the actress is in his room. The Stud tells her to say less. They get to business. This man does not have moral dilemmas. He has a calendar. Back with one thrust man, he shares a 5-star meal with the clone and little sister. He notices the clone eating enthusiastically and comments on her appetite. The clone casually says she needs to maintain her figure. When one thrust man glances at her, little sister snaps at him to stop being a pig. She has no idea the clone actually wants him to behave exactly like one. As little sister storms off, the clone informs one thrust man that he will be assigned a personal bodyguard and nurse. On his way back, he is greeted by the Stud, who enthusiastically declares they are brothers from now on. The Stud tells him this world might feel like a fever dream, but it is real, so he better get moving. Later in the shower, one thrust man wishes Ghost Girl were with him when the lights go out. He grabs for the door, but accidentally grabs something that is not a door handle. He hears a woman tell him to be gentle. The lights come on. Standing there is Akane Ryuzoji, who we are calling plot armor, because this woman appears in every dangerous or awkward situation completely unscathed. When she teases him, one thrust man faints. He wakes up later to find plot armor asleep on the sofa. A voice comes from under the covers. It belongs to a girl named Sui Yamada, who we are calling Tiny Tank, because she looks like a child but can break a bear in half. He learns Tiny Tank is his bodyguard and plot armor is his nurse. While the girls quickly fall asleep, one thrust man lies there in the dark trying very hard to think about literally anything else. The next day, the group arrives at a research facility where Ghost Girl used to work. The clone asks one thrust man why he thinks Ghost Girl is still alive. He reveals that the pendant he gave her contains a transmitter. Last night, it sent a signal confirming she is alive and in Japan. Out of nowhere, a massive bear attacks the group. When it charges at Tiny Tank, one thrust man shields her with his body. Plot armor shouts at Tiny Tank to do her job. Tiny Tank activates, and this little girl drops the bear like it insulted her family. Turns out Tiny Tank is the bodyguard and plot armor is the nurse, not the other way around. They arrive at Ghost Girl's office. It is trashed. The clone explains that years after Ghost Girl disappeared, someone broke in and stole all her research. One thrust man asks what she had been working on. A cure for the MK virus. He then asks the clone if it is selfish to refuse mating with other women because he loves someone. The clone cannot answer that. He changes the question. How many men are in cold sleep? She says the number is unknown because many countries are not cooperating with the United Women. One thrust man does the math. Even if he mates with women, he can only produce a few hundred babies. But if they can safely wake the men from cold sleep, the world has a real chance. He announces that he is going to work on a cure for the MK virus. At an orphanage, Little Sister watches one thrust man give a public interview where he urges women not to lose hope. Later, Little Sister scolds him for attracting attention. One thrust man insists he has to save Big Bro and the others. Little Sister notices a teddy bear and recognizes it as Ghost Girl's. Inside it, she finds a smartwatch. One thrust man snatches it and runs to a washroom. He plays a recording of Ghost Girl revealing that the MK virus is man-made. This changes everything. One thrust man goes for a walk and finds the clone. They sit together. He mindlessly tells her she reminds him of Ghost Girl but more mature. The clone says nothing to that. She asks what he plans to do. He says he wants to work on a cure. Now we rewind to the year 2040. A boy named Shoutadoy is getting beaten up by a bully named Takamatsu, who we are calling Dead Bully because the MK virus will handle him soon enough. We are calling Shouta Revenge Nerd because this kid is about to go from victim to something much darker. After getting roughed up, Revenge Nerd walks out and watches his classmates whisper about him with pity. He passes by a boy who was once his friend, a kid he once defended from Dead Bully. The friend pretends not to know him. That old friend's cowardice turned Dead Bully's fists onto Revenge Nerd instead. In the present, Revenge Nerd regrets ever helping anyone. In piano class, his teacher asks if something is wrong. When Revenge Nerd mentions the bullying, the teacher has no useful advice. She does press herself against his arm, though, which confuses him for entirely different reasons. After school, Revenge Nerd visits the hospital and learns he has cellular sclerosis. The next day, his departure from the academy is announced. His classmates do not care. They just walk out. On his way home, Revenge Nerd catches Dead Bully fooling around with his girlfriend Erica, who we are calling Karma's girlfriend, in the bushes. They spot him. Dead Bully threatens him. After they leave, Revenge Nerd thinks that people like Dead Bully are the ones who truly deserve to die. Be careful what you wish for. Revenge Nerd enters cold sleep, hoping the world will be better in 5 years. 5 years later, he wakes up to a hyper-energetic girl named Karen Kamiya, who we are calling Puppet Master, because this woman has been pulling strings since before Revenge Nerd opened his eyes. Puppet Master excitedly announces she is his attendant. She brings him to a new place and explains the United Women assigned her to look after him. Revenge Nerd asks about his family. His father is in cold sleep. His mother and sister in America are unaccounted for. Puppet Master takes him to the same academy where he was bullied. He is not thrilled. After classes, she takes him to meet someone. His former teacher, Yuzuki Hanyu, who we are calling Teacher's Pet, embraces him and says she is glad he is alive. Revenge Nerd blushes. Puppet Master conveniently announces she has somewhere to be and leaves them alone. Teacher's Pet shyly tells him to come to her room that night. Left alone, Revenge Nerd wonders what his teacher could possibly want, and immediately jumps to the most optimistic conclusion. Puppet Master returns and asks if any girl has caught his eye, then launches into detailed descriptions of every girl's measurements without waiting for an answer. Revenge Nerd ignores the data and mentions how he expected being surrounded by girls would be more exciting. Puppet Master laughs and tells him he should not fear girls anymore because they all need him. That night, Revenge Nerd visits Teacher's Pet, who is dressed like she has plans. She asks if he thinks she is too old. He assures her she is not. That answer gets him exactly where Teacher's Pet wanted. The next day, Revenge Nerd daydreams about the night and convinces himself it was a one-time thing. His classmate Natsu Ichijo, who we are calling Rich Baby because she comes from wealth and cannot dress herself, tries to get close to him under the pretense of checking something. Before things escalate, another classmate named Shunka Hiragi arrives. We are calling her Kindred Spirit because she and Revenge Nerd share the same wounds. After classes, Revenge Nerd watches volleyball in the gym. A ball hits him. Every girl in the room rushes to check on him. Once patched up, he returns to the music room where teacher's pet is waiting for more. Meanwhile, Puppet Master receives a call from a United Women worker. She confirms everything is going according to plan. Number 3 is performing as expected. The following days blur together. Teacher's pet and revenge nerd continue their arrangement, publicly. The more public it is, the more it excites him. A week passes, and revenge nerd is completely under teacher's pet's spell. Puppet Master drags him to swim class, forgetting he is already getting plenty of exercise. Seeing the girls in swimsuits, revenge nerd silently thanks fate for placing him in this story instead of a darker one. The girls compete for his attention in the pool. Rich Baby wins. Akira Tudo, who we are calling Gym Trap because she is an athlete who prefers enclosed spaces, is not happy about it. That night, teacher's pet cancels. Before Revenge Nerd can mope, Rich Baby announces she is staying with him because her room has issues. Puppet Master confirms this by phone. The next morning, Rich Baby nervously admits she cannot dress herself. Revenge Nerd asks if there is something wrong with her. Rich Baby explains she grew up wealthy and was always taken care of. Now, out of options, Revenge Nerd helps her. As he does, he has to remind himself very firmly that he already has someone. At the academy, Revenge Nerd tells Puppet Master about the experience. She laughs and says it is normal for someone from Rich Baby's background. When she suggestively tells him to take Rich Baby for a spin, he chokes on his water. Drenched in his spit, Puppet Master excuses herself. Kindred Spirit arrives and confirms everyone knows about Rich Baby's habits. After she leaves, Revenge Nerd realizes he has gone from a boy who could not look at a girl to someone who can hold an actual conversation with one. He calls teacher's pet. When he asks if he can see her tonight, she declines. He worries she is avoiding him. She assures him it is just a bad time of the month. She then tells him to look after Rich Baby and the others. He tells her she is the only one he needs. Teacher's pet gently explains that if he clings to just her, the other girls will become jealous. That night, Revenge Nerd lies awake wondering if Rich Baby has feelings for him. Rich Baby appears and asks to share the bed. Once she is beside him, she reveals she was supposed to marry a man 20 years older than her. The MK virus saved her from that. She tells Revenge Nerd she loved him from the moment she saw him. They kiss. That night, his body count increases. Meanwhile, One Thrust Man hears a broadcast of himself and realizes the whole world knows his face. The clone tells him that little sister has been frequenting refugee centers, which is dangerous because if anyone discovers she is his sister, it could go badly. The stud shows up and reveals that after being a daddy to many, he is about to become an actual dad. One Thrust Man congratulates him and hopes it is a boy. Back at the academy, Revenge Nerd visits teacher's pet and tries to apologize. She stops him and says she understands he belongs to everyone. Before he can ask what she means, she runs off crying. The next day, Revenge Nerd confronts Puppet Master and asks if the academy is an experiment. Puppet Master takes him to class and confirms it. The academy was built for his pleasure, so he could mate with everyone. This is the last time anything surprises him. Meanwhile, a group of United Women discuss removing the clone from her role so they can force One Thrust Man to mate. In his office, One Thrust Man tries to research the MK virus but hits a dead end. He recalls promising the clone he would find a solution in 1 month. Frustration builds. In a hallway, he bumps into a woman who screams and runs. In the mess hall, girls ask for his autograph. Then, a stern woman arrives and tells everyone to stay away from One Thrust Man because he attacks women. This is Rhea Katagiri, who we are calling Ice Queen, because this woman is colder than the cryogenic chamber he just left. The girls scatter. Ice Queen accuses him of pinning down a woman in the hallway. One Thrust Man tries to explain. She calls him disgusting and leaves. One thrust man receives a call from the clone saying she has been removed as his attendant. He rushes to her and finds two United Women officers. They inform him his new attendants are Maria Kuroda, who we are calling Lab Coat because she is a shy researcher who only lights up for science, and Ice Queen. He asks why this is happening. The officer says since he publicly claimed he would save humanity, he gets two attendants. Lab Coat will assist his research. Ice Queen will manage his daily life. Ice Queen gives him a look that could freeze the sun. The officer adds that if he likes the clone so much, he should just mate with her. The officers leave. Ice Queen coldly tells one thrust man this is his fault. If he had just cooperated, the clone would still have her job. She warns him that if he does not start mating, his privileges will be revoked. Ice Queen later catches up to the clone and tries to check on her. The clone coldly tells her to just look after one thrust man. Upset, Ice Queen tells the clone to stop worrying about a man who just wants to use women. The clone shuts her down instantly. One thrust man is more than that. There is something in the way she says it. One thrust man and his group take a train to Cayman City. He asks Lab Coat why. She reveals a researcher studying the MK virus is based there. One thrust man jumps up in excitement, causing Lab Coat to spill her drink. He follows her and tells her to relax. Lab Coat admits she is not used to being around men. He assures her he does not bite. To lighten the mood, he asks if she studied virology. She did. He recalls Ghost Girl's recording saying the MK virus is man-made. He asks Lab Coat what she thinks about the virus's origin. She goes on a long tangent. He cuts her off and asks directly if she thinks it is man-made. Lab Coat becomes excited and says they might find clues in Cayman City, since that is where the first victim appeared. At the resort, Tiny Tank gets excited about the lake. Ice Queen tells the group they are not here for fun. Plot Armor reminds her that helping one thrust man relax is literally in her job description. Ice Queen disagrees. The girls start a pillow fight, which enrages Ice Queen further. Later, one thrust man relaxes in a bath, when Plot Armor and the others join him unexpectedly. After an extremely uncomfortable bathing session, one thrust man retreats as his ability to maintain composure crumbles entirely. The next day, the group visits an elderly woman named Taniguchi, who we are calling Spicy Grandma because this woman has zero filter. They want to ask about her husband, the first MK virus victim. Spicy Grandma refuses to cooperate, saying a cure will not bring her husband back. When one thrust man asks what would ease her pain, Spicy Grandma looks him dead in the eyes and propositions him. One thrust man gasps. Spicy Grandma realizes the only man who could match her energy is dead. The next day, one thrust man tries again, hoping Spicy Grandma will be more appropriate this time. He pleads with her. If they knew what her husband was doing before he got infected, they might find a clue. Spicy Grandma kicks everyone else out and asks one thrust man why he has not taken advantage of his situation. He reveals he is in love with someone and is waiting for her. Hearing that, Spicy Grandma tells him to get out. That night, one thrust man bathes with Tiny Tank, who roasts him about his taste in young company. When other women approach, he hides in a room and finds a younger foreign girl. He tries to leave, but she threatens to scream. He sits down. She says her name is Chloe, and we are calling her Sauna Girl because trapping men in hot rooms is apparently her thing. She proposes a game. If she leaves the sauna first, she stays quiet. If he leaves first, he owes her a favor. She knows his name. Her identity is revealed. Things go wrong when Sauna Girl collapses from the heat. She demands a kiss as payment for her silence. Just as one thrust man leans in, Tiny Tank and the others arrive and find him in the worst possible position. The next day, the group visits Spicy Grandma again. She sends everyone to get sweets, but asks the clone to stay. Alone, Spicy Grandma asks the clone how she feels about one thrust man. The clone gives an honest answer. He is selfish. He should be doing his duty. But she adds that it is admirable how he is restraining himself for the one he loves. One thrust man returns. Spicy Grandma says she will talk tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. That night, someone tries to poison her. The next day, as the group worries about Spicy Grandma, a nurse gives one thrust man a photo frame. Spicy Grandma told her to give it to him if anything happened. The group visits the hospital where Spicy Grandma's husband was treated after infection. The place is abandoned. Tiny Tank hides behind one thrust man, scared. He tells her ghosts only target the funny characters, so she is safe. Meanwhile, the stud is with all his girls at once. After finishing, he realizes how bored he is with this lifestyle. Somewhere else, Plot Armor finds Ice Queen in the hot springs. She confronts her about Spicy Grandma's medical reports. The health decline does not add up. Someone poisoned her. Ice Queen tries to leave. Plot Armor pins her down and interrogates her about her whereabouts. Ice Queen says she was filing reports. Plot Armor lets her go. Back on the train, one thrust man's attendants returns Spicy Grandma's photo frame. He wonders why they took it. Labcoat nervously says she was checking for bacteria. One thrust man ponders why Spicy Grandma gave him the frame at all. Labcoat stares at a passing house and reveals her sister used to live there. Her younger sister is a prodigy who skipped ahead into an advanced academy. That is Labcoat's sister, Chifuyu Ren Kuroda, who we are calling Little Chemist because she later tries to brew a love potion. At his dorm, one thrust man locks himself in the bathroom and places the photo frame next to the smartwatch. A document opens. It details how the MK virus was developed. He is terrified. Why did Spicy Grandma have this? Why did she never tell the United Women? Tiny Tank knocks and tells him to hurry up. He hides the document, but not before realizing he now has the foundation for a cure. He meets with the group and looks at them with suspicion. He can no longer trust anyone. Elsewhere, Ice Queen's sister, who we have not met yet, is intercepted by Ice Queen during a confrontation. After some affection, Ice Queen tells her she needs a favor. Meanwhile, one thrust man reflects on the damaged sections of the document. If he wants to make a cure, he needs help from other researchers. He turns to Labcoat and asks why there is so little public information on MK virus vaccines. Labcoat gets excited and says she wants to research it, but her superiors redirect scientific resources toward food production. The real data exists only at United Women headquarters in America. Before they can finish, the handler arrives and reveals the stud wants little sister. One thrust man reminds them about his sister's age. For the first time, Ice Queen says something decent by reminding the handler that forced mating is prohibited. The handler apologizes and asks one thrust man to talk to the stud. When he does, the stud smooth talks him into allowing just one date with little sister. Meanwhile, United Women workers discuss how many countries oppose their rule. Ice Queen proposes using one thrust man to distribute food. If women can breathe the same air as a good-looking man, they might cooperate. The United Women approve the plan. That evening, one thrust man is in the bath when Plot Armor and Labcoat join him. They apologize, but say they are being watched, and this is the only safe place to talk. Plot Armor asks if he has information about the MK virus. When he stays silent, she warns him he can be killed. He asks who is after him. She tells him he already knows. His mind goes to the United Women. Plot Armor reveals that virologists have been vanishing for years. She also discloses that Kihara, who we are calling Director Mom, is her mother and the head of the Japanese United Women branch. When she was young, her father left Director Mom. Before they can continue, Ice Queen opens the door and demands to know what is happening. Plot Armor sarcastically says, one thrust man is teaching her biology. Ice Queen slams the door in anger and goes to the clone for comfort. The clone shuts her down. The next day, one thrust man distributes rations. A group of women eye him with suspicion. calling him a tool of the United Women. Somewhere nearby, a sniper aims at one thrust man. Before she fires, she is intercepted by Ice Queen's sister. Later, one thrust man joins the stud and little sister on their date. As expected, little sister turns the stud down. He is crushed. That evening, one thrust man enters a secret facility where his allies can work on a cure. Labcoat discovers something horrifying. Her researcher friends all went missing from the same abandoned hospital in Cayman City. One thrust man connects the dots. That hospital might be where the MK virus was first created. In his room, Revenge Nerd sits with the bitter realization that his life was a lie. The girls did not like him because of who he is. They were following Puppet Master's orders. Rich Baby tries to comfort him. He rejects her touch. She apologizes. He steps outside for air and is stopped by Puppet Master, who tells him to get back inside. He asks if he no longer has freedom. Puppet Master confirms this. He is too valuable. He can leave when he is no longer useful. The next day, Puppet Master has the girls draw lots. The winner gets Revenge Nerd. A girl who reminds him of Dead Bully's girlfriend wins. She tries to get close. Revenge Nerd flashes back to being bullied. He runs. He hides in his usual spot. Kindred Spirit finds him. She asks if he was bullied. He confirms. Kindred Spirit unbuttons her shirt to show her scars. She was a victim too. But this academy changed things for her. Sometimes she still feels overwhelmed and comes here to be alone. The two bond deeply. Revenge Nerd brings Kindred Spirit to his room. A girl named Chifuyu, who we already named Little Chemist, is waiting and furious. She says it is supposed to be her turn. Kindred Spirit says it is Revenge Nerd's choice. Little Chemist strips down and suggests a compromise. Kindred Spirit disagrees. They fight. Watching two women argue over him breaks something in Revenge Nerd's brain. He runs and tries to call Teacher's Pet. No answer. He wonders if she is upset with him. Jim Trap approaches and tries to chat. Revenge Nerd finds himself distracted by her figure. He gives in briefly, then loses his nerve and runs. The next day, he apologizes to Jim Trap. She tells him to make it up by helping clean the gym. He agrees. She takes him to a closet, ties him up, and takes full control. Afterward, she apologizes. He just goes to his room and sleeps. In class, Puppet Master announces Revenge Nerd will be available to all girls daily. When he tries to run, he falls. Puppet Master takes him to the infirmary where Rich Baby, Kindred Spirit, and Jim Trap take care of him. The next day, Little Chemist is tired of waiting. She tries to make a love potion. Revenge Nerd catches her. He asks why she likes him. She says she is into nerds. He chuckles. When she asks for his attention, he declines and tells her to be patient. His mood is ruined later when Puppet Master reveals Teacher's Pet has resigned. Revenge Nerd explodes at Puppet Master. She maintains her bubbly act. He realizes he is nothing more than an object. Days pass. Revenge Nerd becomes mechanical. Puppet Master is pleased. Then she announces a new student. When Revenge Nerd sees Shion Hoshino, who we are calling the bystander because she watched him get beaten and did nothing, his eyes fill with hatred. Back in their old school, every boy worshipped her. Revenge Nerd found their obsession vulgar. But one day, as Dead Bully's gang beat him, the bystander walked right past, laughing with her friends. She saw everything and chose to see nothing. In the present, the bystander approaches and tries to apologize. Revenge Nerd, now a completely different person, tells her to shut up and strip. She asks if he is kidding. He says he is. He has no interest in someone like her. When the bystander approaches Kindred Spirit and Rich Baby, they give her a cold shoulder. Jim Trap arrives and tells her that while they are all rivals, they care about each other. Nobody cares about her. Revenge Nerd asks Puppet Master why she brought the bystander here. Puppet Master explains she wanted to be an entertainer, but there is no audience left. Puppet Master wants Revenge Nerd to feel sorry for her and mate with her so the United Women will give her a job. He says he cannot mate with someone who does not like him. Puppet Master suggests he give her a chance. The bystander is humiliated by Puppet Master day after day. Eventually, Revenge Nerd aggressively confronts her and orders her to the rooftop. When she arrives, he tells her he will mate with her so she can get employment. Then he calls two other girls to watch. The bystander begs to do this in private. Revenge Nerd ignores her. He wants her to feel exactly what he felt. She submits. He gets his revenge. That night, Revenge Nerd tells Puppet Master he is having fun. She urges him to act on his darkest desires. He tells her to bring someone specific. Back at the secret base, Lab Coat worries about her missing colleagues from the Cayman City Hospital. One thrust man decides the group must return there. Back at the academy, Revenge Nerd conducts health checkups. When the nurse praises Jim Trap's growth, Jim Trap credits Revenge Nerd. After the checkup, Puppet Master tells Revenge Nerd she found what he asked for. At the toilet, Revenge Nerd finds Karma's girlfriend, Dead Bully's ex, now working as a janitor. Puppet Master explains she was struggling financially. Karma's girlfriend threatens Revenge Nerd. Puppet Master reminds her she is powerless here. Once Puppet Master leaves, Revenge Nerd unleashes everything he has been carrying. In her room, Puppet Master checks on Teacher's Pet through a United Women contact. Teacher's Pet is pregnant. Puppet Master is pleased. She announces a competition. The girl who pleases Revenge Nerd most becomes his wife. The girls compete. Revenge Nerd starts enjoying himself with everyone. One night, he invites a girl to his room where she finds Karma's girlfriend restrained. He taunts her by saying he is glad the world changed and her boyfriend is dead. Later, Karma's girlfriend breaks down. She used to be an addict. Revenge Nerd offers medicine, then forces it into her mouth himself. Remember the bullied kid from the piano room? He is gone. In an aircraft, a woman named Mansfield receives orders to bring one thrust man to America. Her supervisor warns her that other immune men exist in Japan. The Japanese United Women learn an envoy from headquarters is coming and become deeply disturbed. Someone notes that one thrust man's life has been threatened multiple times. The bear. The sniper. Revenge Nerd picks a girl, but for the first time, he is rejected. Puppet Master notices. That night, a worker informs Puppet Master about Mansfield's arrival. Somewhere, the girl who rejected Revenge Nerd washes her mouth and receives a call from Ghost Girl, who informs her about Mansfield. Meanwhile, Revenge Nerd enjoys himself with Kindred Spirit, Jim Trap, and Rich Baby. Little Chemist arrives and complains about being forgotten. He makes it up to her. While Revenge Nerd thrives, one thrust man stupidly returns to the Cayman City Hospital. Lab Coat mentions they got permission easily. Plot Armor says that itself is suspicious, but not their concern right now. She teases one thrust man about his feelings for the clone, revealing how obvious it is that the clone is in love with him. One thrust man blushes. Plot Armor calls him a cherry. Tiny Tank gets upset on his behalf. Plot Armor scares Tiny Tank with a ghost story. During the tantrum, Tiny Tank accidentally breaks through a fake wall. Meanwhile, in the Japanese branch, Director Mom greets the supposed Mansfield. The envoy reveals she is not Mansfield but her servant, who we are calling Decoy. Back at the hospital, one thrust man and the group climb through a narrow passage and discover a hidden room. They fall right in front of the United Women's technical director. She raises a gun. Before she fires, she and her assistants are shot dead by soldiers led by Sauna Girl. Sauna Girl reintroduces herself as Chloe Mansfield from United Women World Headquarters in charge of peacekeeping operations. One thrust man's jaw drops. Sauna Girl explains she came to Japan after seeing him on TV, posed as a student to investigate the Japanese branch. Before more can be revealed, a bomb is detected. Sonagirl urges everyone to evacuate. Meanwhile, Puppet Master announces she built this academy for Revenge Nerd and will not let anyone ruin it. The bystander, held by Puppet Master's muscle, asks why she cannot leave for Tokyo. Puppet Master says she stays until she fulfills her purpose. Then an airplane appears overhead. It is Sauna Girls. She asks one thrust man if he thinks he is the only man alive. One thrust man stays silent to protect the stud. Sauna Girl wonders why the Japanese directors revealed him to the world. At the Japanese branch, Director Mom meets with Hope, Sauna Girl's assistant. We are calling her Smiling Arrest because she arrests people while smiling. Director Mom claims the technical director acted independently. Smiling Arrest calls it nonsense. Director Mom panics and tries to arrest her. Smiling Arrest just smiles. The guards turn their weapons on Director Mom. A mole on Director Mom's own team stands with Smiling Arrest. The blonde worker is furious but helpless. Smiling Arrest places Director Mom under arrest. Sonagirl reveals to one thrust man that Director Mom and the Japanese branch directors created the MK virus. The world's terrorism and chaos stem from the collapse of human productivity that followed. She shows him a photo of Ghost Girl, who is working with a group opposing the United Women. An explosion goes off. Labcoat screams. Her sister's academy is there. Sonagirl reveals that one of the breeding men has been abducted by terrorists. Revenge Nerd wakes up in a hospital in Cayman City. Puppet Master is there. She apologizes. He asks what happened. Terrorists bombed the academy to abduct him because people are unhappy under United Women rule. His girls enter the room. Puppet Master says they were all worried. Revenge Nerd feels important. On the rooftop, he asks if it is safe. Puppet Master shows him their security. She asks if he still hates Karma's girlfriend. During the attack, he instinctively ran to protect her. He says it was a reflex. Puppet Master tells him he is important and should only look after himself. He agrees and reminds himself he is the only one with a working body. Then Puppet Master drops a bomb. There are actually 4 men. Revenge Nerd freezes. The idea of other men existing forces him to remember his past. Puppet Master preys on his trauma and tells him those men are in his way. She says he should come quietly with her to Tokyo. He asks why Tokyo. Puppet Master reveals the world is falling apart, and she wants to be the one guiding everyone through the mess. Revenge Nerd asks what she really wants. Puppet Master drops the act for 1 second and says she wants to be a powerful woman. He asks why she did not just carry his child herself. She says coaches do not play the field. Revenge Nerd agrees to be her pawn. Meanwhile, the girl from the bushes, who we are calling Bush Spy, calls Ghost Girl to apologize for failing to capture Revenge Nerd. Ghost Girl tells her it is fine. Meanwhile, a woman named Shadow informs the clone and the group about the chaos. The stud will be under their protection. They need to toughen up. One thrust man learns from Sauna Girl that number 4 was kidnapped by terrorists. He asks what they want. Sauna Girl guesses they want freedom from the Japanese branch's dictatorship. Ice Queen is ticked off. After the meeting, one thrust man wonders why Ghost Girl became a terrorist. He checks his phone. Ghost Girl's signal is nearby. Before he can investigate, Plot Armor arrives with urgent news. Sauna Girl greets the stud and mockingly apologizes for his cramped cell. The stud tells her to get to the point. Sauna Girl says the actress cannot tend to him anymore because she is not his official anything. The stud is furious. Plot Armor tells one thrust man that Director Mom and the other directors will be tried for creating the MK virus. He asks if they really did it. Plot Armor says her mother was intense but would not do something like that. She does not trust Sauna Girl. To prove her point, Plot Armor reveals that Director Mom was such a dedicated leader she did not even attend her own son's funeral to keep the country running. One thrust man comforts her and promises to arrange a meeting with Director Mom through Sauna Girl. Lab Coat arrives and tells them to come quickly. Ghost Girl has hijacked the airwaves to broadcast live. One Thrustman watches in shock. Ghost Girl announces that her group is not terrorists, but an organization called Izanami that opposes the United Women. She says the United Women are liars. She brings out a man called Ren, also known as Number 4, on camera. He is another cold sleep survivor. The United Women hid his existence. Ghost Girl declares that the United Women manufactured the MK virus to create a world of only women. She also reveals they are developing a gene that will ensure only female babies are born. She pleads with One Thrust Man and the remaining men to protect those still in cold sleep and join Izanami. The broadcast ends. A woman called Shadow tells everyone to remain calm and not believe terrorist propaganda. One Thrust Man and his allies decide to leave and find Ghost Girl. At his room, he is greeted by Puppet Master and Revenge Nerd, who has undergone surgery and emerged looking like a completely different person. Tall, handsome, dangerous. One Thrust Man stares at him. Labcoat asks Puppet Master why she is there unannounced. Puppet Master gives her usual bubbly excuse about being scared after the terrorist attack. One Thrustman asks Revenge Nerd where he has been. Cayman City. Puppet Master asks One Thrustman his opinion of Sana Girl. He says honestly he does not know her well. She saved his life, but it is too soon to judge. Puppet Master thanks him and directs Labcoat to her sister. Labcoat runs and finds Little Chemist, who embraces her. After the reunion, Labcoat sits with Little Chemist and her friends, who complain about their rough few days. Little Chemist directly asks Labcoat if anything happened with One Thrust Man. Labcoat spits out her drink. Alone with Puppet Master, Revenge Nerd asks what she thinks of One Thrust Man. Puppet Master says he is soft. Revenge Nerd says he is smart. He asks about Teacher's pet. Puppet Master assures him she is safe. Once she leaves, all Revenge Nerd can think about is Teacher's pet. One Thrust Man takes the clone to a private shower room. He tells her to escape with him and his group. When she asks why he trusts her blindly, he says she has been with him from the start and he wants her at his side. The clone drops her guard entirely and tells him to prove it, right here, right now. One Thrust Man panics. She says she will not go unless he does. He asks if she really does not want to go, knowing he will not give her what she wants. The clone breaks down. She wants to go, but she cannot. Seeing her cry, One Thrust Man moves to kiss her. The door bursts open. Smiling Arrest and her soldiers order them to come along. Everyone is going to America. One Thrust Man does not want to go. Plot Armor and Tiny Tank break free and fight back. But Smiling Arrest grabs the clone and threatens to kill her. Then Smiling Arrest gets tased. Ice Queen and Labcoat arrive just in time. At Japanese headquarters, Sana Girl makes a deal with Puppet Master. Puppet Master wants a meeting with the 3 sages who run the United Women. She also wants to run the Japanese branch herself. One Thrust Man and the group reunite with Little Sister and locals who have taken a liking to them. That night, Ice Queen leads them to a ship. She tells One Thrust Man to be safe. He thanks her and says a heartfelt goodbye to the clone, promising to come back for her. On the ship, Bush Spy informs him he is headed to Taiwan to meet Ghost Girl. Little Sister gives him a tablet connecting him to the stud, who wishes him well. The handler asks the stud if he wants to leave with his favorite girl. The stud opens his photo gallery of every woman he has been with and says he cannot possibly pick just one. Sana Girl apprehends Ice Queen and the clone. Once they are in cells, Sana Girl begins Phase 2. Exterminate all men. Meanwhile, Puppet Master shows Revenge Nerd his new setup, complete with the actress. She tells him others cannot mate, but he has special privileges. Revenge Nerd grins and says he loves this world. One Thrust Man finally arrives in Taiwan. Ghost Girl is waiting. They embrace. He promises they will develop an MK virus vaccine together. And that is where things stand. One man trying to save the world with science, another man who decided the world owes him everything, and somewhere in the middle, 5 billion women waiting to see which one wins. If you made it this far, you are legally obligated to subscribe. I do not make the rules. Actually, I do. Subscribe.